Good morning, everyone, or to our friends across the pond, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for this really unique event. Today, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and its setting in universities. And this is a really interesting and dynamic topic. And also what makes it very interesting is that we're doing this internationally. So all three schools represent different countries. And as such, it should be a very dynamic conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, it's really important that we thank Thomas Bayard, who really brought this event together. And entrepreneurship networks are important, and Thomas knew everybody at each of these universities, kind of brought us all together. And so the culmination is this. And our first panel, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship within the university. And then the second panel is how the university reaches outside of the university to do entrepreneurship. But before we start our first panel, let's hear from our respective leaders of our institutions. We're going to tell you a little bit about our institutions and why entrepreneurship is important. Thanks.
Good morning, and to our colleagues in Banja, Luka, and Estonia, good afternoon. I want to thank you all for joining us today for this exciting international partnership supporting an initiative that I feel very strongly about, entrepreneurship and new venture creation. As you know, the connection between universities like ours and new ventures is strong. There is indeed great interest by our students and faculty in being part of new venture creation and its growth. At Towson University, developing a culture of entrepreneurship is a university-wide effort, led by Mr. Patrick McClown, our Executive Director of Entrepreneurship, who will moderate much of today's proceedings. I want to thank all of the esteemed panelists leading our discussions today and look forward to learning more. As our global community and economy shift and adapt amidst the ongoing pandemic, opportunities for creative solutions and creative thinking have increased exponentially. At Towson University, I'm proud that we're investing in creating opportunities through entrepreneurship. In the coming months, the university will open a new, vibrant space for entrepreneurship and business engagement in a renovated historic armory in Towson's Business and Political Center. When it opens this summer, the startup, as we have named it, will connect entrepreneurs and business leaders with each other and TU's outstanding programs and people. The startup represents our commitment to serve as a catalyst for economic development and new venture creation within the Baltimore region and the state of Maryland. It is through efforts like the startup and partnerships like the one that brings our universities and these innovators together today that we will support everyone's future successes. Again, thank you. I look forward to working together and making profound impact.
Good morning, Dr. Kim Schachel, President of Towson University. Good afternoon, Professor Radoslav Kajanin, Rector of the University of Banja Luka, and welcome to all presenters and attendees. As Rector of Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences, also called EUAS, it's my great pleasure to welcome all the participants here today on behalf of the EUAS. We are delighted that you have joined us for our first Free Universities Exchange webinar to discuss and share experiences in approaches to entrepreneurship through academic, social, and partnership programs. We hope you all are safe and sound. This has been an unprecedented year, full of challenges that will change the meaning of entrepreneurship and the way we approach it, how we develop entrepreneurial skills, and the role of universities within that. But what are the best practices to develop students' entrepreneurship based on recently finished research about challenges of entrepreneurship education in Estonia? Students see entrepreneurship knowledge and skills as both beneficial to their future wealth, their career prospects, and enjoy the process of broadening their knowledge base. Estonia is known for its startup orientation. startup capital, as well as having one of the highest number of unicorns and startups per capita worldwide. While in education emphasis is on practical skills and active methods, the main emphasis should be on startup type of skills to develop and present business models. Universities have an essential role in providing an environment that involves experienced practitioners with good communication and pedagogical skills. We support this view as EUAS is a university of entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs and for future entrepreneurs. The UAS is the largest private university in Estonia, based in Ülemiste city, an innovative community known both as a future city and as the Silicon Valley of the North. It is the largest privately owned smart city in the Baltics and biggest business campus in Northern Europe. We take pride in our hands-on curricula, which are developed in collaboration with entrepreneurs, where learning is done by doing. We do hope that all participants of today's webinar have a productive time developing these and other ideas further and getting fruitful discussions going. Thank you for listening and enjoy the webinar.
Dear participants, dear colleagues, it is my great pleasure to greet you on behalf of the University of Banja Luka in the Republic of Srpska in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and to join you today for this first virtual seminar dedicated to the three universities' exchange on business entrepreneurship and innovation. The University of Banja Luka is relatively young. We are 45 years old, but it is a vibrant public health education and research institution gathering around 15,000 students enrolled in different studies. The University of Banja Luka is an integrated university with 17 faculties and research centers functioning under one umbrella institution but covering a vast array of scientific disciplines. Its constant investment in teaching capacities and research facilities has made it a very recognizable and reputable educational institution that is currently the second best ranked in the country. The main role of the university is in education and training, as well as in research and development, including transfer of knowledge and technologies. We have already recognized the need for further development and enhancement of entrepreneurial learning and skills development, which we have enabled through activities of our Entrepreneurship and Technology Transfer Center as a university-level coordinating unit for building capacity of the university for cooperation with the society and industry. We were extremely happy to engage in partnership with the Towson University and the Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences in organizing a series of mutual learning and knowledge exchange sessions, such as this webinar today. The organization of such knowledge exchange is fully in line with our university strategy for development and achievement of the particular strategic goal that envisages the university's development of entrepreneurial culture, which thus becomes a reliable partner to the economic sector. I am therefore sure that today's dedicated panels on the best practices for supporting and developing student entrepreneurship and the panel on the role for the university in supporting entrepreneurship and innovation by creating community partnerships, mentorship and other means will provide us with many ideas, practices and avenues for cooperating in building entrepreneurial and innovative societies. It is our strategic goal to constantly look ahead to a more technologically advanced future, which can only be driven by healthy and sound entrepreneurship in society. That is one of the reasons why this particular cooperation means so much to us. With that, and on behalf of the University of Banja Luka, I wish you all fruitful panel discussions and exchange of knowledge.
Wow, that's really exciting. And this is a great event. And again, going back to what is entrepreneurship, it's doing. And our mutual friend, Thomas Baird, who we mentioned before, just had this idea, communicated it to all three of us. We came together and now we're doing it. So this is all very exciting. So let's start the panel. We'll first start with introductions of each of the panel members. They'll tell you their title and what they do at their respective universities. And then we'll jump into fireside discussion and Q&A. So we'll start with my colleague and friend, Jan Baum, please.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. So nice to be here. My name is Jan Baum. I'm a professor in the College of Business and Economics. I'm also the director of the minor in entrepreneurship and serve as the faculty director for entrepreneurship at TU. 6 years ago, Towson University created a university-wide minor in entrepreneurship designed to augment the students' major area of study, expose students to entrepreneurial thinking and mindset, and give students an entrepreneurial skill set. Over this last 6 years, the program has grown exponentially, probably about 300%. At the same time we established at the minor, we also established an experiential learning platform open to the university community. Everything in the minor is experiential / application based. Through experiential learning, students interact directly with entrepreneurs from the local ecosystem through a speaker series, for instance, where they learn from entrepreneurs, build a professional network, and find internship opportunities. Mentorship relationships evolve out of the folks that we bring to campus, and we bring a lot to campus. And TU has had a physical space in the center of campus where we use a peer-to-peer model for developing student entrepreneurs. We also have competitions which give students the opportunity to perform at the local level directly with our stakeholders in the community.
Thanks, Jan. That was great. Let's hear from Andela, please.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andela Pepic, and I come from the University of Banja Luka. I'm the head of the Entrepreneurship and Technology Transfer Center, which is a university-level coordinating unit for building capacity of the university for cooperation with society and industry. We have been operative since 2017, so we are relatively young. After the transformation of what was called earlier as the University Entrepreneurship Center, which was founded in 2009. We run programs on entrepreneurial learning, the technology transfer, but we also do project management and connect academia with society through different programs and projects. Our center basically facilitates cooperation and works on building capacity of researchers and the university as a whole for cooperation with industry and society through joint projects and knowledge and technology transfer endeavors, such as, for example, a program called My Traineeship and 3D Academy, which ETTC implements joint with the Innovation Center here in Banja Luka, which is supported by our Ministry of Family, Youth and Sports of the Republic of Srpska, and through which we basically enabled 20 to 30 students in their final years of studies per year to undergo a traineeship program in different companies and solve practical problems, but also to gain more ideas on how to set up their own companies as well. Along with that, they go through the 3D Academy and spend several months developing and upgrading their 3D technology knowledge. And after this successful traineeship program, half of them receive employment and either form their own companies. We also do a lot of cooperation with other innovation hubs in the region, but that is more left for the panel discussion if someone has a question.
Thanks, Andela. That was great. So let's hear from Dave now, please.
Hi, I'm Dave Brannon. I'm an associate professor here at Towson University. And I was brought in, I guess, almost 10 years ago, 2011, to revitalize the entrepreneurship curriculum. And that's my focus. I've led efforts here on the entrepreneurship curriculum and the development of different programs here. The focus we have is more towards an experiential type of education. And we believe that the skills and the knowledge that we impart through our courses are a benefit to everyone. And we try to make the courses open to everyone throughout the university. And as a result, we've grown a good bit, and we've added quite a few courses over the years. We are now up to 10 entrepreneurship courses completely devoted to entrepreneurship. Plus, we have a number we've also integrated in as electives throughout the university. The other role I've had here is an advisor for our entrepreneurship student group. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. And finally, can we hear from Elina, please?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar. I'm from Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Science. It's a university that has entrepreneurship in its heart. So we prepare and develop entrepreneurs for success. And we have very specific programs like startup entrepreneurship, creativity and business innovation, software development, and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is the main focus of our university. Currently, I'm residing in the United States and doing research at Harvard University about entrepreneurship. And about myself, you know, I love entrepreneurship, really. I love to do research on entrepreneurship. I love to teach it. I love to teach how to teach it and write about it. So my life is around entrepreneurship. And of course, I'm an entrepreneur myself. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. This is great. So I would say my first question, maybe Ellen and David can answer this, is that, you know, entrepreneurship education has evolved pretty rapidly. It started with 50-page, you know, business plans, and now it's gone to kind of design thinking and lean models. So what innovations have you seen in the curriculum and seen other colleagues do outside of yourself? And then also what outcomes have resulted from this?
Yes, indeed, Patrick, you are absolutely right. Entrepreneurship education has made a very strong leap, and I think it's in a very good direction. Teaching is often focusing on how to validate ideas very fast and in a very robust way. So I have seen like teams, they start from zero, they pass the entrepreneurship course, they pass pre-incubation program, and they fail, and all during one semester. So it goes really fast, which is, I think it's a very good direction. So you can test your idea very fast. And in terms of innovation, let me start a little bit from country level, because Estonia is a very small country. And 4 years ago, Ministry of Education and Research has launched entrepreneurship education program, encourage development of enterprising spirit in all levels of education in Estonia. So it was a huge project which involved all universities and all experts in entrepreneurship research and education. And as an outcome of this project, we have created open source courses, educational materials for teaching entrepreneurship for all levels. So it was a very, very big and good project on a country level, which is, I think you can pull it through only in a small country like Estonia, where you can really involve many, many participants and stakeholders. So if we talk about Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Science, as I said, entrepreneurship, it's in its heart, and it's a very unique university in Estonia. It's a private university, and entrepreneurship module is absolutely compulsory module in all specialities. So it is very, very focused entrepreneurship education. And also our students are participating in accelerators, incubation programs, and hackathons held by other institutions and universities. So again, our small country enables us to share resources. So if someone is running hackathon, all other students from other universities are welcome. So one innovative thing about our university, that we are situated, we are part of the smart city Ülemiste, which has 500 companies and over 12,000 people working in this city. And we have excellent opportunities to utilize this ecosystem in our educational activities. So our students, they develop projects for these companies. They can go to make work shadows. They have internship opportunities, summer jobs, study tours in these companies. So we're really utilizing this ecosystem, what we have created. And also entrepreneurs are contributing to entrepreneurship education in our university through mentorship. They supervise our thesis, they teach, they develop programs and curriculums. So I think that's we're in a very lucky position to have this ecosystem where we can innovate and give to our students maximum what we have. Thanks.
Excellent. That was great, Dave. What would you add to that?
I think I would like to add that entrepreneurship in general has moved from just being kind of housed in the business school to having a much broader perspective. So we've added green entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, we've arts and entrepreneurship. So there's lots of different ways in which people can become involved. And we want to make sure that the students and people in the community who are interested in these different aspects can become involved with it at TU. And as a result, we've done several things to try to make that happen. Definitely within even just the past 5 years, we've seen a pretty big move in social entrepreneurship at TU and a lot of interest from our students, especially around some of the issues surrounding our community in the Baltimore area. And a lot of the ideas that students come into our classes with now focus upon that social entrepreneurship aspect and trying to make conditions within our community better as a result of that. So they're using their entrepreneurial skills and the knowledge that we give them to try to make that happen.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to Elina's earlier point with, say, hackathons and things like that, I can remember at my old institution when I first got there, they had that 24-hour hackathon where the students come together. They're given a problem. They have 24 hours. They put it together, and the presentations weren't very good. They were okay. They just weren't very good. But the next year, after some students went through the accelerator and knew how to pitch very well, they were in. There was only about 4 of them out of 90 students that were in that next year's hackathon. But the result was, since everybody was together for 24 hours, they kind of taught the other students how to pitch. So the result was the 26 teams that were there had much better pitches than the year before. And so it's not only, the outcomes of these aren't only founder CEOs like we like to talk about all the time, but it's also other students within the university. And as Dave said, yeah, the push is kind of to get it out of a college of business. And we all represent universities with a lot of different areas of study. And so we used to define, success as how many students did we engage, how many stopped by or saw the speaker or did that. And now it's really bringing elements of entrepreneurship and innovation to the areas of study that aren't often associated with entrepreneurship, right? I like to say astronomy to zoology, A to Z, right? And so, Jan, I would say, outside of the College of Business, what are we doing to, get every discipline to have this mindset, skill set, and awareness, that this is a possible path for them?
I really loved it. And I want to echo Elina's enthusiasm. I think this is actually a critical part of how we get people involved, is having that love and that spark and that passion for entrepreneurship. And the other thing too, Patrick, I was thinking as you're talking, is what's great about having a minor or really enveloping the university community is when you bring in those students in interdisciplinary teams, or you cross-pollinate them together, you really do leverage the strengths of other disciplines like the theater arts, right? They're better at pitching. They're great at collaboration because they live by collaboration. So in terms of what we do in terms of reaching out and fostering this across universities, we do a great many things. And I suspect that perhaps our universities are similar in this regard. Towson's 23,000 students, about 19,000 undergraduates. And so we really take a terrestrial approach in terms of like putting a lot of stars out there in the cosmology, and in order to reach our students. So we communicate from the top down, the bottom up, and everywhere in between. But it's really the minor itself and building coalitions across a university and the university curriculum that has really enabled us to get this success. I mean, the minor, half of the students in our minor in entrepreneurship come from the College of Fine Arts and Communications, right? I think last time we ran a competition, the winner was from the College of Liberal Arts. So we're really proving that we're really proving in real time that entrepreneurs come from everywhere, right? It's about ideas and action. So I would say, you know, having everything being experiential, doing that big outreach. And then the other big piece that we have done, which has been really successful and important, is the dedicated student space in a neutral place on campus that looks like the outside world, that looks like the co-working spaces that we find in our local ecosystem, and that peer-to-peer model. So if they're not ready to talk to Patrick or me, there's a peer there that knows the ropes, and then they can kind of get them started that way. So that's kind of how we've approached it.
Yeah, and it's obviously very interesting that you know, look, Towson was started as a teachers college, right, and remained that way largely, you know, almost until 50s or 60s. And we have somebody in our new cohort, the founder CEO, is an education teacher. She teaches elementary school, so kindergarten through 6th grade, and you know, has no you know, training, at least educationally, on anything to do with business or entrepreneurship. Yet she has, you know, $500,000 revenue, and just, you know, ended her job teaching, which she'll do in a few weeks, to pursue her company. So, you know, it really does go to demonstrate that entrepreneurs do come from every corner of campus. And so, you know, we're here today over Zoom. And we probably should talk about the elephant in the room, which is due to a global pandemic, right? You know, we have COVID that's kind of holding us at bay. And so maybe Andela, you can kind of start us off on this. What would you say, you know, have been any kind of innovations or entrepreneurial activities that have resulted from COVID? Because again, you know, entrepreneurs, when they see this, they see potentially, hey, how can I fix this problem, right? And so what have you seen in that regard?
So, yeah, you're right, Patrick. Let's look at it this way. A lot of entrepreneurial spirit is all around the university. It's just the way of how you find it and how you direct it into a entrepreneurial building up, or let's say starting a business. So at our university, what COVID brought was a set of new ideas on how to resolve some key issues that researchers, for example, dealt with prior to COVID, but then due to COVID, they had to find new ways on how to go away from the usual ways of doing things. So, for example, also our faculty of mathematics and natural sciences started producing the visors and the shields for our medical staff at the University Clinical Center, which never would have happened if there wasn't COVID. So that wouldn't occur to them as an idea to start something out of nothing, let's say. So this is one of the examples. I mean, there are a lot of others as well. So a lot of students are now engaging more and more into the e-sport, and they are, like, let's say, promising future developers in gaming industry as well. So these are some of the things that probably wouldn't have been done, at least not in this regard, if there wasn't COVID. So this is exactly the entrepreneurial thinking that was helping people getting the most out of this unfortunate situation, so to say.
Yeah, and it's you often hear, you know, a lot of us here are entrepreneurs, and I know I've said it about myself as an entrepreneur. You often hear entrepreneurs say, "I never thought I'd be here," right? And you know, we have a TU alumni who is in our second cohort of the accelerator, and he was basically laid off from his job a year ago due to COVID. And so he started a company, and he makes protective skins for cameras. So, you know, cameras are just one color, black, right? And it's these skins that are in different colors, and they're vibrant. And if you're a photographer, you're an artist, and you're creative, it makes your camera stand out, and at the same time protects it. He is now up to about $15,000 a month in revenue. That'd be about €7,000 in revenue. So, he never thought he was going to be here, but COVID kind of inadvertently, presented him, with that opportunity. And so I guess I want to ask, the president of our university, Dr. Schatzel, had talked about venture creation, right? And universities are very good at instructing students and teaching students, hey, if you want to open up a restaurant, here's how you do your financials, here's how you discover your market, here's how you do your pricing. They're very good at that type of thing. But venture creation is kind of creating something new, right? Something that's not been done before. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business. I always like to say, Martin Luther going back and tacking his, thesis up on the church door, started a Reformation. That was venture creation. So what would we say? How, if at all, do we as educators address the distinction between starting a traditional business and doing venture creation? And I would open that up to anybody that would like to answer that.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because it goes further, like what we can consider as entrepreneurship. If there is one person in the company and doing something like micro company, is it entrepreneurship? So it's a like very interesting question. In our university, we focus on venture creation mostly, as you, Patrick, have defined that with the innovative outcome. So basically, our vision is to become unicorn farm, or at least startup factory in Estonia. So this is our vision. But in general, of course, we do not limit our students in terms of choosing one business idea or concept over another. So we teach similarly. Our focus is on innovation, and even if students, they will choose something very traditional, during the studies they will add some innovative aspects to that. So, and because we encourage them to be bold and to think beyond their boxes. So I think that's our stand on this question.
Yeah, and I really like, you said unicorn factory, right? Like I definitely like that, and that's an important outcome, as part of this. And I guess I would just also kind of again the same question over to Dave, who I know is always kind of very focused on the curriculum. Like again, right. What would you see, Dave? In the evolution of the curriculum and how to broach these two different topics.
Right. I would say it's focused towards more opportunity identification, exploration, and how you actually then make that into something useful for the marketplace. And that can be in a variety of ways. And so we do have students who have ideas that aren't very innovative, but that's something they're very passionate about doing. And so we still help them and have the education set up that it assists them to do a new venture creation, even though that new venture may not be the next Uber. It's going to be what that student wants, and that's what they're passionate about and want to create. And so we help them, and we also have the opportunity for students who are working on perhaps a brand new product that is very innovative, and some of the same types of educational techniques do work for them. The rapid prototyping, the market analysis, the feasibility analysis, those types of things are relevant to both groups. And it can be a challenge sometimes when you have a student who wants to develop an app, another student who wants to develop a dance studio, and another one who wants to sell swimsuits online, trying to make a curriculum fit with all of them. But we do our best to try to tailor it to the students and give them the skills and the knowledge they need to be successful.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I guess this would lead me to my next question, which is, we spent a lot of time talking about how we're trying to reach every corner of the campus, and as we should, because we do know that these entrepreneurs do come from everywhere, right? But with that said, statistically, most of the students are not going to be entrepreneurs, right? They're going to want to go work at a company and do a process, and that's absolutely fine. This isn't a judgment call or anything like that. So I want to ask, what are some of the tactics we use to find these students that are going to be entrepreneurs? And let me give some context around it, because there's haven't been many studies on this, but there was one done out of Sweden, And they basically said, you want to find the entrepreneur students, go find the ones a little bit with a record. They're the students that kind of push the boundaries, just a little bit. They're, which is, we all know entrepreneurs are okay with risk, right? And so, they find innovative ways. To put it in further context, Chris Sacca, right, a graduate of a esteemed university here in America called Georgetown University, he's kind of held up as the entrepreneurial student. He was a judge on Shark Tank, the whole 9 yards. Well, Chris Sacca, when he was at Georgetown University, had a party every year where the cost to attend the party was not money, but you had to put into a bin a graded paper and your notes from the class. And Chris kept that in a bin and then went and sold those to people that were coming in the next year and made an outcome of that. Now, students don't get any ideas about this because this was back in 1997, before there was Google and all that. So don't get any ideas. But obviously, was it innovative? Was it creative? Was it entrepreneurial? The answer is all yes to that. Was it a violation of, the honor code at Georgetown University, a school that I had taught with, so was familiar with? 100% absolutely it was. So, with that said, how, what are some of the tactics you all use to find these entrepreneurial students?
Really great examples. And to me, it goes toward the culture that you build and the attitude that you bring, right? And I think it's a tricky line that entrepreneurship, people on the entrepreneurship teams need to balance, right? You need to encourage that and also make sure that the university is not getting in trouble. But that's exactly right. And how do we channel that kind of thinking, but also how do we manage innovation? That's, to me, is a real key point here is, established businesses, established entities are not necessarily innovative because they're concerned about paying the bills and growing, et cetera. So how do we kind of bring that in? But I also was thinking that we could also talk about failure, right? So Dr. Brannon talked about, we have these students who some of their ideas aren't necessarily super innovative, but going through that process, going through the entrepreneurial process and failing, might show them, hey, I do have to be competitive. And that wasn't a super innovative idea. But going through that process, once we all know that entrepreneurs are going to fail, and then hopefully they keep going, right?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think you might remember this, Jan, from something we had done earlier before. There was a student startup that went out to go, and they raised millions of dollars, and they're still very successful. But their first attempt, while they were still students, and thankfully it wasn't for a class, their first attempt, at this product that they were making, missed the mark by an order of magnitude. If that was an engineering class, to your point, they would have failed, right? They would have gotten a grade of F, literally failed, right? But entrepreneurs, as Edison said a long time ago, oh, how did it feel to, fail 10,000 times? He said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. The light bulb was a journey of 10,000 steps, right? And so, again, as Jan brought up, right, if this wasn't, if BarTrack was in a classroom, that would have gotten an F, right? But clearly it's very successful. They're in 2 countries, they're being deployed now. So, with those two kind of frames in mind, Andela, like what would you say you're doing it? Or would you say you're having issues with some of your faculty that kind of don't gravitate towards that way of thinking?
Well, I would have to also agree that it's a way of how do you send a message that it's the innovation culture that you are nurturing, and not setting the business plans or some rigid rules and so on. So it's a way of finding the, let's say, promoters of the innovation at the university. So at each faculty that we have people who are really professors, teachers who are really good in promoting innovation, in promoting innovative thinking, in promoting critical thinking. And I think that's the key to reaching out to students who would say, oh, you see, if I'm thinking a bit more beyond the box, then there might be something to it. So there's always a tricky way of finding such students, of course, because on the other hand, they are also focused on their studies. But we try to do that through the pitching events, through discussing with their professors and finding those who are really standing out of the box. So this is our way of how to find entrepreneurial students and professors as well.
Yeah, it certainly is a challenge, and again, kind of going back to the curriculum, it's one of the harder aspects because it changes, so quickly, right? The innovation in startups, in ways you are able to innovate is just always changing. And so, particularly with platform companies, right? The kind of notion was, well, we're going to be the town square and anybody can come in and say whatever they want. And, here in America, there's a law that somewhat protects them. It's called Section 203 of the Decency Act. It was passed in 1996, and it protects them, right? So traditional media companies aren't able to do that. If you slander anybody, you can be brought to court and financially fined and things of that nature. And we're seeing this evolution happen in real time, right? So Twitter, taking the first step to ban who was then President Donald Trump, and then that subsequently led to Amazon banning them and the Trump group. That led to Shopify. It was just a cascading effect. And so, what would you all say are we doing not only to kind of teach entrepreneurship, but also, dare I say, kind of some of the ethics that possibly go around this, right? Because again, this is constantly evolving and moving all the time. And so I would open that up to Elina and Dave. What are we doing on that side to stay on top of the issue and make sure our students are, where the market's going to be?
I would say ethics are definitely something that we discuss as an important part for the students, and it's not just this new aspect. It's your reputation and how your customers view you. If you are going to do things that are unethical, whether it be selling pharmaceuticals that are going to be dangerous, or having people on your platform that are going to be spreading misinformation and lies, that does contribute to how people perceive you and what you do, and how they will perceive you in the future. And so, that ethics part is going to be a key to whether or not that business is going to succeed in the future, because customers want to buy things from people they trust and believe in. So I think ethics is an important part for business, and it's definitely an important part for entrepreneurship.
Yes, I do. I do agree with Dave. Absolutely, this business ethics is a very important part of entrepreneurship education, and it should be like embedded in every step of entrepreneurship or venture creation. But deplatforming per se is not an issue in Estonia, and it does not happen very often that business ideas are somehow politicized, or they have this political dimension in it. So it's really, really rare. But it doesn't mean that we don't participate in events which are important at this point of time. For example, last year we had the Global Healthcare Crisis Hack the Crisis Hackathon for many participants from 100 countries. So our students do participate in events which are current, but very rarely these are related to political issues. Like a huge difference between United States and, for example, Estonia.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up, a very kind of somewhat obvious question, right? You just said, hey, look, in Estonia, it's very rare that these things get politicized, whereas, Dave and Jan, I'm sure, can attest that in America right now, virtually everything is politicized at this point, right? Down to, do you drink Coke or Pepsi, right? To use two American brands. And so, America is, we obviously are a country of immigrants, and immigrants, have led to some of our best ventures that we have. Google obviously being a very easy recent big example, right? And so what I would ask is, and maybe we can start with Andela, is, what are some of the distinctions that you see between, how you have to contend with entrepreneurship education in your country versus, what we have in America or anywhere else in the world?
Well, I must say that you are right, but regarding the how America and its entrepreneurship has evolved and developed, largely thanks to the large number and inflow of immigrants. But for Bosnia and Herzegovina and for the University of Banja Luka, it's a quite different situation, given that we have a large outflow of minds, let's say, a large outflow of people going abroad to find their businesses, happiness, and so on, due to different circumstances. But then on the other hand, we are gaining a lot because they are bringing back, it's called the brain circulation. So in those terms, we try to connect with our let's say, brains abroad, and also to connect them to the local ones, those who stayed. And on the other hand, we still are suffering from a bit of the rigidities, maybe even largely due to the previous system, the socialism. So we still have large bureaucracy system, which sometimes prevents entrepreneurial spirit to flourish in its biggest array. So this is the biggest difference I see compared, for example, to America. And I believe that Elina will have similar experience, well, for at least some part of Estonian development in those terms as well. So since we share a bit of a common history.
Yeah.
So this is the largest difference that I see. And on the other hand, we are still trying to cope up with these rigidities that we have, but also to follow up on what's already out there and to, let's say, go few steps more than we should initially go. Like we are jumping over steps a bit to catch up.
Absolutely. And Elena, I guess I'd ask you the same thing. And again, knowing right now you're in America, right? And studying there. And I always like to say, because I've been overseas many times, like the thought, overseas, you in some countries you pay to use the bathroom, and that's we don't know that in America, right? But the distinction is, yeah, you might pay this small fee, but the bathrooms are supremely clean, whereas in America they're often not. And then there's typically an attendant there to make sure, that nothing's going down and that everything's clean. So again, we're kind of talking, different countries, different needs, different kind of perceptions. And so what would you see, in your country? And then again, as you're in Cambridge, what do you see in America?
Oh, I see a lot of differences, I need to admit. I think it's let me refer to my own research, what I did a couple of years ago. So I was studying entrepreneurship environment in Estonia. So I had these 3 dimensions: social, cultural environment, political, legal, and economic environment. And I asked people what they think about, how they perceive these environments in terms of entrepreneurship. So what came out, it was pretty surprising for me, because I was more inclined, or my hypothesis was that political legal environment will be most favorable in terms of perception. But what came out is that social, cultural dimension of my model was priced or evaluated the most highly. So it means that entrepreneurship is very welcomed in Estonia. It is big honor to be entrepreneur in Estonia. It is very easy to become entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship is very, very much like a preferred career path for many young people in Estonia. So this one is like one interesting development, what I found from my personal research. And also, yes, our historic background is different. We have been suppressed, like as a country, for centuries, for so many years, and the feeling of if I just compare my feelings, the feeling of the freedom, what I feel here in the United States, it's absolutely different what I'm feeling in Estonia. I don't know, maybe it's because of this cultural aspects which are like embedded through the genes, but there is something different what I sense. I feel more freedom here, honestly.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. So as we close out this session and move on to our second panel, I would like each panelist to maybe take just a little bit less than a minute and discuss anything they want to make sure that our audience knows about today. So the floor is yours if you want to bring that. And then I would say for extra credit, if you want to give an example where maybe, a student did come to you about something and you completely missed the mark. You were like, oh, that's never going to work. And you didn't support it. And the next thing you know, it did work. And it was $1 billion, idea, something where you maybe potentially completely missed the mark. So we'll start at the bottom with Jan.
And I again want to thank everyone for the opportunity to have this forum today. It's been really wonderful. Elina mentioned earlier using open source sources or resources and utilizing hackathons and that kind of work. And I just kind of wanted to underscore that too. We are also, and I feel like I'm so impressed with the open source resources that we've been able to use. And that's how we are kind of like staying on topic or staying on top of trends like the deplatforming, right? So I kind of wanted to underscore that. And then the other thing too is, it sounds like, from Andela, working internationally is so important. Like we know that, but I'm really grateful for our international partnership that we're starting here today. But, like being able to, for your students maybe to come to the United States and then come back, right? For our students to go see how the rest of the world lives and then adapt to and prepare for a global company from that angle. So this connected ecosystem, it really is global. It really needs to be global, not just, we start them out like, within our university, then our city, and then our state, and et cetera. But we really do need to be reaching across these. And the other thing I guess that I would just put out there too, we didn't talk about, we don't have time to talk about everything today, and that's fine. But there is a sense of like in the United States, you can go get it, right? It's a free society, you can go get it. But I would also point out that we have some systemic biases that we still have not overcome, right? So the amount of funding that goes to women and minorities is like microscopic in comparison to the dominant culture. So we do have some things to work on. Last thing, and I'll say is, coming from the perspective of a professor, my goal is to teach them the processes that they will become successful with, right? That's the mindset, that is the skill set. And so when students come to me with an idea, I let the process bear out whether their idea is good or not, right? So I don't have to be in that hot spot, Patrick, of saying this isn't good. I point them in the direction that I think, I want them to discover that sooner rather than later. So that's what I'll say. And just thank you all. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, Jen.
Andela, can you tell us a little bit? And
well, I have to say that I do agree with Jen completely to all that she said, and I'm also grateful that I had the opportunity to exchange experiences and ideas today with all of you, and I hope that our listeners and viewers will be satisfied with what they received also through the knowledge exchanged. But what I would underline here is that although there are differences like in the ways how we teach or we support entrepreneurial skills at our students, I would say that Jan is right to the point that it's a global system and it's a multicultural world, so that we have to adjust and adapt, and even use maybe some of the non-standard things that we are usually used to using here in our different countries, and try to maybe employ some of the others. So, for example, I've gained a lot of ideas from today's talk on how to proceed further with our entrepreneurial learning programs, especially listening through Elina and Jen. So thank you for that. And well, I hope that the next panel will also be quite a successful one.
Thanks, Andela. Dave?
Thanks for the opportunity to be here today, and it's been a wonderful panel. I've enjoyed all the discussion that we've had. I think the thing I would like to kind of mention here, and it's brought up a couple of times, is the passion piece. And the students come into our classes with the passion for their ideas and what they want to do, and we try to help them make that happen. And so I'm very aware of that, and I try to never say never. That will never work. So even if I may think it, I will approach the student and say, well, what about this? What about this potential issue? How are you going to deal with that? Do you need to perhaps pivot to a different model? Try to help them make it work than to say it won't work. I think that's an important piece to do.
Absolutely, Dave. Absolutely, it is. Thanks. And Elina, close out the panel for us.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I believe that entrepreneurship is a learned skill. Anyone can be entrepreneur. So there is no average entrepreneur. It can be female, male, young, old, single mom, or single male. So anyone can be really an entrepreneur. And our university is international university. Our students are coming from different countries with different backgrounds. And my experience shows that interdisciplinary teams are the most successful. And we are recruiting those who already have higher education or work experience, and our schedules are created in a way that we enable people to work and study. And I want to sum up with the one word, is a social constructivism, meaning that we learn from each other. We want our students to learn from each other, and what we do now, we also learn from each other. We're sharing our experience, and that has enormous, gives enormous impact on education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all to the panel. There were so many things on display here, that are so important to entrepreneurship, right? The first was we talked about diversity, right? And even within our cohort at TU, of the 9 ventures, the majority of the 9 ventures are founders that are minorities, right? And so what Jan Baum had brought up there, it's mirrored in our cohort, but it's mirrored on this panel too, right? Again, we have 3 countries all coming together, which leads to my next point, which is collaboration is always so important. And us, just by talking to each other today, in kind of this, moderated format, right? We still were able to learn so much. And then the last thing is passion. It's very clear that everybody here on this panel is very passionate about what they do. I always like to say, the thing about entrepreneurship is the only thing that's going to drive you up first is your passion, because you're not going to get paid. You're going to have to educate people. You're going to get a lot of no's and all that. So it's very clear that this panel, is a mirror of diversity, collaboration, and passion. And so thank you all very, very much for your time today. And at that, we will bring in our second panel, where we will be talking about the roles of a university in supporting entrepreneurship and innovation, and doing that by creating community partnerships, mentorships, and other examples. And so, again, we have representatives of our 3 various universities, and I'd like each panel member to introduce themselves, talk about their position within the university and what they do. And then at that, we'll go on to a panel discussion. So let's start with my colleague and friend, Heidi, please.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick. And also thanks a lot to all the previous panelists. It's a big learning moment for me as well. I'm Heidi Feng. I'm a professor in the Computer and Information Sciences Department at Towson University. As a researcher, I work in the field of accessible computing, which means we use information technology to help people with disabilities and the seniors. And I found that has been very helpful for my administrative role, which is the director of the School of Emerging Technologies. The school was established at Towson in 2018. That's around 9 years ago. And I took over the directorship role in 2015. And one of the primary mission of the school is to promote interdisciplinary collaboration in both research, academic program development, and community strengthening the community. And in today's panel, I will not only talk about the activities of the School of Emerging Technologies, I'll also talk about a variety of efforts to build both internal and external partnership that has been beneficial in entrepreneurship. The different levels include both the university level, the college level, and the department level. So I'm really glad to join the panel and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. And we'll go with Yovo next, please.
Hello. Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here and listen to interesting people in discussion. This is a huge topic. We probably need a couple of dozen days to finish all this, but at least we started. I just introduced shortly myself, and my discussion later on will also include my sort of background, because I really traveled all around the globe, from Croatia to New Zealand, Estonian University, Scotland, and finally I ended up in Banja Luka 10 years ago. So I'm here at the Faculty of Economics, University of Banja Luka, Department of Management and Marketing and Entrepreneurship. I teach, in fact, not entrepreneurship, but not very far from, strategic management and international business, and some other courses for my postgraduate and doctoral degrees. So that's it for now. So I introduce myself in terms of my background later on more broadly. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yovo. And now, finally, we'll hear from Ilari.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Elari, and I'm grateful to be here, listen to you guys, and get the wisdom. I've held many different leadership positions over 20 years now. So, but currently I'm running a multi-million-euro real estate company here in Estonia, just being an entrepreneur. I teach at the EUAS. I teach creativity in business and leadership consulting. And my passion is some kind, I would even say I love to identify new leaders and help them to nurture, to become bold and take responsibility. So, and yeah, I myself, I would say I'm an entrepreneur by my mind. It works all the time. It's very hard, 24 hours a day. If there would be 26 hours, I would work 26, but I can't because there's only 24. So yeah, I'm married. I have 3 sons and 2 daughters. So love to be here.
Excellent. Thanks, Ilari. So I guess before we start, there's always kind of this misperception that universities aren't, they're universities, they're not businesses, right? And our president, I'm completely stealing this from her, likes to say, oh yeah, and she was a CEO. She runs a business that, receives about $400 million in revenue each year and has $2 billion under assets. And then every year, 25% of the paying customers leave, and she has to go recruit 25% new customers to keep it going. So, we very much are a business. And so universities have historically, play an absolute critical role in, any region or country's ecosystem, from starting companies to supplying employees. And so How do you see, I'd open this up to Heidi and Ilari for the first question. How do you see your institution's role in participating and supporting that ecosystem?
Okay, so I can provide some insight first. So Towson, since Dr. Chessel, our president, joined Towson University, she, as Patrick said, she had created several fundamentally new mission and goals for the institution. And now when we look back, it has profound impact on campus, on faculty, and on students. And one of the mission that Towson has been put lots of effort to accomplish is to establish our identity as a community engagement institution, which means, our primary goal is to make positive impact in our community, in Greater Baltimore area, in Maryland, and to transform lives. And entrepreneurship is one critical approach for us to achieve that goal, to make real impact in the community. And so as to the role of the higher education institutions in achieving and in transforming lives, and in promoting entrepreneurship, lots of surveys worldwide regarding for entrepreneurs pointed out two challenges, right? One is access to talent, and the other is initial capital. And Towson has put lots of effort in addressing both challenges. So regarding access to talent, higher education institutions, we are definitely on the supply side of talent. There are tremendous pool of talent among our faculty and our students. But the challenge has always been how to match those challenges with both external partners or promote faculty and students to start their own business. So through various programs, such as Baltimore Towson University Partnership Program that was run by the Office of Partnership and Outreach, and the School of Imaging Technology, the seed funding program, we have funded projects, early ideas that eventually took the commercialization path. So we see Towson has been able to both match the talent and then provide initial capital for early stage ideas, so that eventually they can acquire further funding and then eventually become a successful business. So I'll stop here for the time being, and would love to hear what Ilari has.
Yeah. I would say the ULM is the city here where the university is located. Our university is a very special place. It was founded actually now about 30 years ago when Estonia got independence. It was just it was empty and full of factory buildings, and there was nothing special. Nobody even wanted it. And there was one guy who saw something, and it was just close to the city center, I would say, and close to the airport, and nobody wanted that land. And so now, just fast forward about 30 years, it is an incredible city. It is just one man saw something in it, and the others didn't. So it's called Ülemiste City. Our university is located there. We call it Smart City. There is more than 500 companies now. I'm talking about also the corporations. I know that Volkswagen is there. Some Scandinavian big companies are moved there. So there is something special. But I love the story, just going back 30 years ago when somebody saw that, hey, we could have here some, let's call it smart city. And the economy also of that city is pretty big and impressive. So I would say, as our university calls, we are the spiritual center of that city. So we see ourselves in a quite big picture, helping this city to grow in a spiritual way also. So, and the wisdom and the smartness that we can give. So I think it's pretty well organized. That kind of university plays a huge role in this environment.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to bring up something that that kind of Heidi alluded to, which is that really early stage capital, access to that, right? And we'll talk about, kind of distinctions on who gets that, who doesn't. But I would ask, before that, so this would be to Jovo and then Ilari, what do your universities do to get some of that early stage capital to students or faculty that are working on new businesses?
Okay. So obviously, the location of our university in Banja Luka, which is, I would say, a great location. I moved here because I'm from here. Also, I found this city is good in size, just about 200,000 people, and it's a second major city in the Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's very close to EU border, which is very important to Croatia, and connected with the motorways, also airports and so on. So it's a good climate, I would say, and food, what people like, and so on. It's easy going. So the university is obviously the major driving force in the city for entrepreneurship, for everything really. So in terms of entrepreneurship, it's all about culture. I used to live in New Zealand for 10 years. In Scotland, Scotland is probably the best environment for entrepreneurs. So it's just about culture, as Elina said previously in Estonia. So you need really to work on to get people in, to get them involved in entrepreneurship, in own business. But one of the major barriers in terms of doing this, many young people, they just seek secure employment. So administration in different levels and so on and so on. So, and people who are more ambitious, they go abroad. So we create entrepreneurs and they just move to Germany or probably Estonia, I don't know. So that's the one of the major problem for young, I mean, not just for young people, for the country. Funding is always a problem. State funding, the university is a state-owned university. It's it's a poor country, but we do have other sources. EU really give up a lot of money, finance for different activities, entrepreneurship. I will mention later on one of the major and biggest network of businesses in Europe and beyond. So, well, it's always difficult to compare some universities and countries, and so it's I would say environment plays a major role in creating such ecosystem where these ambitious people and talents can really flourish and to really realize their businesses, their ideas. So unfortunately, many of them go abroad, like Nikola Tesla did once, exactly from this region.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Ilari, do you have any access to funds, early stage funds to support some of these ventures?
Oh, I'm still on? Yeah, definitely we have funding from the state, from different sources. One of the problems, I would say, entrepreneurs who made money, they don't really have sensibility to support young people in developing their own business. In Scotland, all these entrepreneurs, and we call them here tycoons, they really support universities. They invest in entrepreneurial centers and so on and so on. But here's obviously different culture. They don't do that. So also, we try to connect them and to also help them. But obviously, it's a different culture from Scotland, for example, and New Zealand, where I was working and studying.
Okay. In our case, the city itself is very motivated actually to fund itself if there are interesting projects. So we see it as a part. It's like as the university is actually the spiritual center of that smart city. So the city around is looking always the opportunities. So it's kind of giving all the time the hint, hey guys, we need this or we need that. So I love the saying that money is never the issue. Actually, yeah, some might say money is the issue, but if we really dig deep, we see that money is not the issue. The issue is about somebody's character or the idea that is flawed or the character is flawed. But basically, money is not the issue. So what we see, we have fundings, different fundings possibilities in the governmental level or the city level or the university connections. So there are a lot of opportunities in our university as well. So if you have the character to go through, to push through, and you have the idea that is worth pursuing also, I would not see any problem there.
Yeah. So we like to do an exercise where we give, $5, and we say you have, a day to turn this $5 into as much money as you can, right? And people do everything from like they buy, cookie ingredients and make cookies and then sell them for, $2 each and then make a profit and then keep doing it and come back. And that's kind of an exercise to show them that to your point, money isn't going to be the stopper, to get this off the ground. With that understood, though, at least in our country, we have these biases that particularly the people with the money have, and they maybe don't even know they have it, right? The best example being, somebody saying, a big investor saying, well, we expect the next Mark Zuckerberg to look like Mark Zuckerberg, right? And our country, everybody doesn't look like Mark. Most people don't look like Mark, right? And so, that's a big issue. Now, our university, as the president alluded to and Heidi alluded to, we have a building that's coming online this summer. That's 2 stories, 21,000 square feet, open to the public. Most of the building is open to the public, and it's a stone's throw from campus. The reason for that is when you're bringing in these outside leaders and companies and mentors, to get on campus is a total pain in the you-know-what, right? Like Heidi knows this. We got to get them parking passes. We have to have somebody meet them to get swipe card access. So now they can show up to this state-of-the-art building and they can engage with our companies and our students and our faculty and all that. And again, as I said, it's an actual stone's throw away from the university. In terms of capital, Heidi can maybe talk a little bit about some of the other programs. But our program, if you're accepted into the accelerator, each company receives $10,000 equity free. We don't ask for any equity in their company, and that's to be put towards their company. We don't check on receipts or anything like that, but we're so engaged with them. We know what's going on. And that kind of initial influx of cash, just, it's been shown that that's the hardest to get, but it also has the most impact on the company. And so maybe, the next question is, Heidi, outside of the accelerator, maybe you can talk about, SBIR and things of that nature on where's access to some capital for faculty and students.
Sure. So the School of Imaging Technologies, the seed funding program, have funded numerous projects that aims at commercialization. And one of the most successful ones out of that line of funding is one that funded Dr. Alan Sheffield, who worked on real-time captioning. So the project started with Dr. Sheffield's project that provides lifetime captioning for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And she has collaboration with the NPR, National Public Radio, and with initial set funding and some other university level funding and external later on. So that's the hardest part, the initial capital. With the initial capital, she was able to attract both external partners and some, I think some government collaborators as well. And so NPR and several other partners. And eventually now she developed that to a independent, a business called Verbatim. That has been very, very helpful. One of the leading business nationwide that provides accessible service to people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And there are also other sources, OSPR, so Office of Sponsored Programs, and research has started to provide funding. And the BTU has also some funding, not all targeting entrepreneurship, but a portion of them, can lead to projects that with potential for commercialization. And something I would like to mention is many times it's really hard to differentiate, the sources. Lots of faculty, their project started with, internal funding, and then they were able to attract external funding. And those projects, some, grow to commercial, business. And many of them also grow to nonprofit organization, which is something I would like to mention. So entrepreneurship not only, can cover the business, the for-profit sector, but it also applies in nonprofit sector. Nonprofit organization has played huge role in fields such as healthcare, serving communities with special needs. So Patrick knows about the Clark project that was led by 2 faculty from the Computer and Information Sciences department. That project started with the faculty's research in cybersecurity education. And within 4 or 5 years, they have attracted large amount of government funding and funding from nonprofit sector. And now they have established one of the leading resources for cybersecurity education modules that has been used by hundreds of institutions around the country. So there are lots of successful stories at TU from this perspective.
Yeah. My favorite global story, and all on that NSF funding you talked about, and for our friends overseas, that's the National Science Foundation, which is a federal government organization where you can apply for funding in research. And probably the biggest example of that would be Google, right? And that leads me kind of to my next point, which Yovo brought up, right? Google, was the students were immigrants, right, to America, and they were studying at Stanford. And Yovo talked about Tesla leaving, his country and coming to America. So what are some of the things you all are doing at your institutions to ensure that talent pool, that creative class, if you will, kind of stays within your ecosystem, or is that maybe something that you don't care about?
Well, I just reflect a bit of for the money supply for entrepreneurs. I'm really glad to hear that in Estonia there is no lack of money. So obviously, many people who listening this will move up there. So money is in our country is a big issue, really, and it's very expensive. If you go to the bank, the price is 5, 6, 10%. I'm talking about the interest rate, and they're really structured and rigid in terms of giving up loan. So you must have show history, business plan, right projection, financial projection for the 5 years, and so on. And people who are starting business, they can't really demonstrate any of this. So it's always a problem. Sources for money supply or funding for new businesses could be saving, family saving, or the government can give some money, of course, but not as you said, in America, you give out $10,000. So it's a considerable amount of money for business here. So it's a big issue. But what was the second you just asked, Patrick?
Yeah, about how your example of Tesla leaving for America.
Yeah.
Is that something that you work to keep them within your ecosystem, or do you not care about that?
It's really to attract students, ambitious students and good students. Every year I have probably a dozen good students, and most of them live in the country. Whatever you try to convince them, stay here, we provide whatever you need, but they just have another idea. I don't know, it's difficult to answer this, to find the reason why they do so. Some of them, but not really many, come back. They experience something else in another country. Because we are close to developed countries, from Slovenia, Austria, which is a great really business environment, and it's very close to here. So they go there, they find a job, or they start their own business, and they can come here every week, to visit families and friends and take some healthy food and so on. So it's a big problem. And we also have some always fragile environment in terms of political instability, and people don't really want to get involved and to get stuck in an environment which sometimes can be very rude and so on. So it's a big question, really. It's a big issue how we can, and government and obviously do everything to keep these people who are really advanced and talents, and to keep them here. For example, in the medical environment, so many doctors, they just leave the country, and now with them, we really need them more than we have them here. So this is what's going on here in Bosnia, not just in Banja Luka and Bosnia and Herzegovina, but the whole Western Balkans. Many people are really leaving and always leaving, I would say, the best people.
Yep. And same topic to you, Larry.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, though it is a difficult one in that sense, that how to keep talented people around. And I would like, just the principle would be challenge them, of course. How do you challenge people? So this is always the question. But what I see that is done in our university and the city is actually, success leaves clues, somebody said. So if we are creating the environment that it not only feels successful, but is successful. And I know it's not an easy work. It's really hard work to bring all this corporation to this city. Like, we actually love to call it like a Silicon Valley of Estonia. So all the startups would be there. And so that some cases when somebody shows up, everybody wants to go there, and the parties are usually are surrounded by people who are somehow popular. I know it, but again, I guess that's something that the city is doing, not just the promotion or not just the marketing perspective, but also the content, that we're really trying to bring in companies and people who want to be challenged and who want to surround them with these success stories. So I know, again, it's not easy. There are up and downs, but this is what happens in Ülemiste city. I see these 500 plus companies coming in. Our university is really directly working with them. We choose the companies we want to work with. So this is one of KPIs. Again, what we have is just we want to work with directly certain companies, but the challenge, of course, is creating the environment to keep them there. So I guess the key word would be how to challenge them to stay.
Yeah. And so, again, going back to our example, which I'm not holding up as the story of success, but what we're finding, we're trying it out and we're finding it works, is in our building, the first half of the first floor is open to the public, right? And that's where our accelerator companies kind of take their residency and work on their ventures. When they kind of graduate from the accelerator, the second half of the first floor is 5 conference rooms. And then upstairs is about 15 office spaces and 7 areas of open workspace. And so what we're finding is they graduate from the accelerator, but they still want to have access to our team, and they're familiar with the space. But now they get out of the fishbowl and they move upstairs to the offices, that again can't be accessed by the public. And they have, all the utilities they need to keep working. They have, conference rooms and copiers and all that. It's like a WeWork space effectively. And they actually pay us rent. They pay back to us rent. And so, we have a company, for example, that is now at about $4 million in revenue. They've certainly kind of graduated from our program, and they are taking residency upstairs in our building, and are still very, very much with us. So those are kind of some of the tactics that we use to keep them there. But certainly we have a mandate, from much higher up than me, that we want to keep our talent pool, as close to our area, which would be Baltimore City, Baltimore County, or what's referred to as DMV, District, Maryland, Virginia. We kind of want to keep them there, and typically TU alumni, do stay there. And so, Heidi, I guess Ilari had said, hey, you always want to challenge people and start new things, and I fully agree with that. And you had talked about, our new president coming in and, kind of laying out these mandates that you had not seen, at least in your time at Towson. And we talked earlier about how the curriculum's changing and all that. What can you say that are some of those changes? And then what can you say has been some of the response from some of your colleagues to that change?
I think that's a great question. I think, traditionally, as faculty, our primary assessment criteria would be, how great you taught your course, right? And, what's your student evaluation rating? What's your peer evaluation rating? And then how many people you have published, and how much external grant you have put in. That has been the traditional measurement for faculty. They are still critical parameters now. But as I see the difference in the, since our current president's term compared to the previous ones, I think the emphasis on community transformation, on making real positive impact on people's life, has been very encouraging for both faculty and students and staff across campus. Because now we are encouraged to not only publish your paper, right? You should also try to find a way to show the impact of your research, to reach out. If you are an educator, for example, faculty from College of Education, collaborate with public schools. They have always been doing that, but now it's just the message is much stronger. And, College of Health Professions, collaborate with healthcare institutions and get your research message out, help improve the quality of healthcare. And for Fisher College, we collaborate with lots of IT companies, and we collaborate with governments like National Security Agency and DOD. And you see the impact of your research, almost immediately, reaching the hands of teachers, the hands of healthcare professionals, and then the programmers. You can see their code. The quality of their code has been improved. It's more solid now. It's more secure. I think seeing those real impact has profound impact on our faculty, on our students. And the other thing I would like to mention is so another important activity we are taking is we are trying to, so Patrick also mentioned that regarding curriculum change, we are developing more and more courses that involve civic engagement, which means the students need to work on real life projects. They collaborate with a real life business or organization, or sometimes a government agency, and they try to solve some problem that their customer is experiencing. And I'm teaching the capstone course for the IS Information Systems major this semester. And in that course, our student teams are working with 2 nonprofit organizations, both helping users with autism. And the students, when they work with those real life organizations, and they got free training from those organizations, they learn what autism is and what's their challenge, and then they think about ideas about how to improve the website, how to make it more accessible, how to make the content more engaging to those children. That profoundly changed the perspective of students, and some of them mentioning this is something that's very interesting, and they may continue doing something after that, after graduation. So there are lots of examples regarding this that we can share, probably through other channels after the panel, because otherwise, we can talk about this for hours.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next question, because again, if you look at how universities were built, and I'm saying literally built, right? There was a gate, around the university, right? And it's like, hey, we want to keep the students and the faculty inside here, and we don't want any outside input, right? And I always like to say, a long time ago, somebody had the idea, hey, let's take a student for a semester and send them overseas for a whole semester. We'll give them college credit, and that went against the norm of the universities that have been around since the 1700s or whenever, right? Older in Europe. And now that's a universally practiced, study abroad is universally practiced. And so, with that in mind, all of us are engaged with the broader business community. And so, I would ask Jovo and Ilari, what are you doing to do this, and very specifically, what, if any, metrics do you track to ensure that this has success?
Well, I in fact prepared some points presentation. I don't know if I should share with you or not, just discuss it regarding the really explosion of entrepreneurship and SMEs, which are quite 2 things associated with each other. Small businesses, and every business starts small. So when I was doing my PhD in New Zealand, in Wellington, I really was SMEs in specific sector in tourism. I interviewed probably 160 plus people from different countries, and these entrepreneurs and small business owners, and was really fascinating how they started their own business. And I came up with one new concept, lifestyle entrepreneurs. So I was trying to figure out why people start their own business. When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's a broad, really, it's an umbrella kind of really concept, but everything can fit in, And I hardly could find any decent book or journal at that time. Was probably 22 years ago, but it's really at that time in 90s the entrepreneurship started to really to grow up, and now I just probably can show. I don't know if I can share this. The proliferation of this of publications in entrepreneurship and SMEs. Probably there are more than 100 plus journals in entrepreneurship, and people combine different keywords to avoid the similar kind of name of journals. Like some of the top journals in Europe, Journal Business Venturing, Small Business Economics, Entrepreneurship Theory and Practice, and Entrepreneurship Innovation and Change, Family Business, and technological innovation, and so on and so on. And we do have some other refereed entrepreneurship journals. It's a huge list. I'm not really going to read them all out. And there are also some non-refereed journals. Also, we are talking about hundreds and more. Most of them are published in English. We have some related national kind of journals and books, which are published in other languages. And also journals from neighboring fields and with strong dedication to entrepreneurship, like Business Plus Innovation, journals of Family Business Management, Family Business Review, Journal of Family Business Strategy, Industrial and Corporation Change, and so on and so on. Journal of High Technology Management Research, and so on. So there are so many of these journals, quite high quality journals and quite highly ranked. But who really reads this stuff? Not entrepreneurs, I would say, just reviewers, editors, and some of the researchers. And also there are so many books in entrepreneurship, 100,000 of them. I just found somewhere on the internet, best business books was a survey who are the best book out there in the market. 861 books, which voted by 1,500 voters. Best books for beginning entrepreneurs, 391 book. The People's Library for Success, more than 400 books. The business interpretation books ever, more than 500. Regarding required reading for success, recommendation books for startups, and so on and so on. So there's so many stuff out there. Plus, also we have portals, internet content, and so on. But what really is my point? How we can really create a curriculum or courses for entrepreneurs? How to teach them? We know that entrepreneurs, if we just talk about genuine entrepreneurs, they are. We have to split into like broader areas. The traits, which something you carry with you from your early time. There are characteristics of successful entrepreneurs: hard work, self-starting, setting of personal goals, resilient, confidence, and so on and so on. And I would also underline one of the most common and very important characteristics. It's a comfort with power and big numbers. So some people are really just, they want to create their own business, but they just scared of big numbers. When you say $1 million, they just don't go any further.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's numbers are why most humans have an issue with evolution. It's very hard to comprehend 6 million years, right? Yeah. When we can barely comprehend a decade. So,
yeah. And I'm talking about this characteristic, the traits. Hardly you can teach people this really. So you can just make them aware of this, but not really teach. But other skills we can teach in the school and in classes, like entrepreneurial skills, strategy skills, planning, marketing, financial, project management, team. And all we do this at our faculty, in my faculty at the university, as well as leadership skills, motivation, delegation, communication, and negotiation skills. So it's really difficult to structure the curriculum, as I said. And we also have to bear in mind the changing in the business environment. Today we have quite different business environment from we had last year regarding this not to thanks really, but regarding this pandemic. So and not just because of this reason, but also the world is changing. We can see that the power shifting in the global business and political environment. So we really need to We used to have an open market, global market, but now it's coming back. This curve is taking another course. So how we can create our environment at home, how really create this ecosystem so we can attract our best people there. So I have so many things here to say, but as I said, we need so many.
Yeah. So
I say another things. When I used to teach entrepreneurship courses in Scotland, we used to have a number of courses really tailor-made to people who like to create their own business. They like courses, entrepreneurship and e-commerce, growing your own business, and all this, and research for enterprise. And in many cases, we really combined theory and practice, and taking people in real environment and connecting them with the business people, and was really useful, giving them some idea to develop and websites and so on and so on. So it's, and creating a business model, because entrepreneurship is all about really creating a business model which can work.
So Yo, I just want to be cognizant of time and make sure that can respond as, again, what we're trying to focus on in this panel is external, right? And then after Ilari goes, we'll just all take a moment to discuss last thoughts, and that will conclude the day. So Ilari, how are you kind of, because again, you have a newer university, right? And Heidi and I, again, are in a university that at one point was completely and utterly gated, even though that's starting to go away. How are you engaging, with the business community outside of your university, and then what do you use to track the outcome of that and success or not?
Okay, Patrick, this is a great question, and I think if universities stay in their hub, it's a big problem, and I think it has happened with so many universities around the world that they quit and they stayed, and so we need to be there. So that's the key. So what we do, we have the specific KPIs actually. So we keep that in mind that we need, first of all, we want that our visitor lecturers are practitioners. So we have that 90% our lecturers and professors need to be practitioners. It is a very tough one, but it is just something that is a game changer, actually. So like myself, 6 years ago, when I started to teach, I'm a businessman. So I remember my first lecture. That was very tough. So I had, I think, like 3 academic hours to do the lecture, and I was just really not even scared, but that was way too long time. Today I can do that much longer, but yeah, so 90% we want to be practitioners. The second, we want to work with specific companies. So we don't want to work with everybody and anybody. We want to specifically pick some companies. So that's what we do also in our city. We choose the companies. And the second is that we want that in every curriculum we have at least one scholarship by a company that is around the university. So we do that in purpose. And what else? Basically that's it. We want that we have practitioners. We want to teach, or it's a tough word, teach. We want to actually have the experience with them that will teach them, and they will learn from that experience. That, okay, what is the minimum viable product? What is the minimum viable outcome that I need to generate? Because I need small steps. So I think we measure that. We have some measurements here. Plus, we want it to be very practical. So if it's also the number, how many students are going to work at the companies who actually work in our city, and of course, how many students are starting or beginning their own companies within the university. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah,
no. And you brought up a lot of valid points, right? And it's funny to me that we always have to remind some people that entrepreneur is a noun, right? It's not a verb. And sometimes they'll twist entrepreneurship around. I'm like, well, that's that's enterprising. That's not that's not entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
They try to make it into this verb when as you said, it's action oriented and it's a noun. And as for the practitioner aspect of it, I always like to say I'm teaching music appreciation, right? Just like when you were a little kid, or art appreciation. The teacher was like, hey man, you might not want to do art, but in this class, you're going to do a finger painting or you're going to play a recorder, right? And some of the students, were like, wow, I want to go down this path. And that might mean, being a bass player. It might mean, being a creative director at an ad agency. There's all kinds of paths you can go down. It's the same thing with that. I'm teaching entrepreneurship appreciation, and somebody else had said this, it wasn't me. They said trying to teach entrepreneurship without having been one is like trying to teach music appreciation without ever having played an instrument, right? You clearly have to be there. So I love your approach of like, you're bringing in the companies, the practitioners, as you're calling them, right? And they have to be, so many of your instructors. And so, that's a great point. So being cognizant of time, let's take the last few minutes with each panelist kind of going down and for about a minute or so, and just saying anything that you want to ensure that our audience here today knows, about either what your university is doing or what you're doing or what you'd like to do. And then lastly, I see some comments in there about some of these different universities. I see somebody from EUAS saying, hey, can we start to work together with students? Absolutely, positively. Our contact information will be up on the site. Please reach out to us, and we'd love to start that process. And again, to all of our points earlier, this is all about action items. So we'd love to get that going. So with that, Heidi, let's start with you and let us know.
Sure, thanks, Patrick. So there are two things I would like to mention here. One is to add on the response to the last question about how we measure, track and measure partnership. At Towson, the Office of Partnership and Outreach and the BTU program, they created and maintain a centralized database called the BTU database. And that database tracks all the past and active engagement and the partners at Towson University. I think as of last month, there are about 333 engagement and more than 600 partnership that's being recorded in that database. So I think after the panel, we can share the URL of the database. They also use interactive technology such as story map to help you understand the different areas of impact that Towson has made. A very interesting database. And the other thing I would like to share, which also kind of echo what Jobo has mentioned about the need of the medical field. At Towson, Baltimore is kind of unique, is one of the really national hub when it comes to healthcare. We have Johns Hopkins University, we have UMD, and a whole bunch of world-renowned healthcare institutions. And we see that healthcare is one of the fastest growing fields, both in the US and worldwide. And Towson has made major efforts down that path. We see great potential in healthcare, in improving independent living for seniors, people with disabilities, etc. And lastly, it's my great pleasure to be on this panel, to be talking with all the other panelists. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Heidi. And certainly, I look forward to seeing you in person, which is going to happen pretty soon, I think. So thanks for being here today. Yoel, please.
Okay. When it comes to teaching entrepreneurship, it's really important to connect them with the real world. So I mentioned these journals and books. We so much probably in some university focus on theory, but not really giving them space to experience something what they want to do. So I would like to mention one of the programs that the European Union really funds. It is Enterprise European Network, which is the aim to helping companies innovate and grow internationally. It's probably the biggest network ever, connecting, I don't know how many, 30, 40 countries, and each country can really create one consortia. We have one in Republika Srpska and another one in another part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And these partners or members are universities, innovation centers, development agency. This is really good, part of the learning and helping people who want to create their own business and really connect with companies from outside the country. And we also have excellent. This is two main components of this. Is a COSME program for competitiveness of SMEs, really funding by huge amount of money, helping people how to access finance, opening market, and so on. And we also have Horizon 2020, which is part of the research, and this is also funded by, in the last cycle, 80 billion of funding, euros in 7 years. So this is many opportunities in terms of breaking through and helping businesses to do research, because research R&D is the major, really is the major thing. I mean, it's the main thing to do to create idea and really give them entrepreneurs to commercialize them. So this is one of the major really network I would like to emphasize. So it's obviously there's no more time to talk about this, but I'm really happy to be part of this and to share some good discussion and experience. So I hope we continue with this. And Patrick, thank you very much for your excellent coordination on the panel.
Yes, thank you, Jova. And last of the day, but first in your heart, Ilari.
Thank you. First, thank you very much for the webinar. Thank you for all the listeners. Thank you, Patrick. The 6 years ago, when I was invited to our university, I was invited to put together the module of entrepreneurship. 15 AAPs. It's a huge thing, and I have never done before that. But I'm an entrepreneur. So you bring me as an entrepreneur to your university to build something. So actually, that was crazy that they did. But I put this module together in one, and I had one thought. I want it make practical. I want it to be to be sustainable. I want them to see what it means to have the taste of business. So everything we have done at our university and with that module has been, how can it be practical? So crazy was to bring a businessman in and just to have the curriculum to do. But I think we have succeeded, not just by myself, but we have had people who help. So I want to bring out a couple of points. I think the practice is underestimated. So the practice is something that we need to emphasize more. So I think we should be much better in practice, daily basis. So if you want to be a writer, the only way to become a writer is to write a book. So there's no other, or the book is to write every day. If you want to be a cook, a chef cook, Gordon Ramsay or anybody, you need to start to cook. So if you want to be a businessman, you need to start. When? Now. So I don't think there's a better time to start a business than now. The online thing, what happens now over here. So as we all know, that failing is the stepping stone for success. We don't like that sense, but there is no other way. So you can, you wanna succeed. You need to be ready to get tired and fail. So, and the last thing, what I say to every student and also is that creativity is something that everybody needs nowadays. So the opposite of creativity is fear. And come on, the economy and everything is filled with fear. So if we want to be entrepreneurs, if we want to be solve interesting problems, if we want to create something that is exciting and make money, I think creativity needs to be there. Otherwise, we do things. as normally as usually done, and status quo comes up. So thank you for doing this thing that is just exciting and out of box. So thank you, Patrick, and everybody.
Just the small thing, if I can. Entrepreneurship is not a choice.
It's a vocation. Yeah, I say that. Yeah. Once you get in, you're not going back.
You are born with it or not. So just
I
like leadership as well. So that's...
Yep. Fully agree. Well, this is perfect. What a great way. What a great end note. So we're right on time, which is great. I just if anybody wants to contact me, sorry I can't write in the comments. Feel free to go to towson.edu. Put in my last name. Trust me, there's no other McQuowns. You'll find it. Just email my way. We are going to have more of these. The next one will be next fall. We'll coordinate that and let everybody know. I want to again thank Thomas Bayard, who is the component that kind of glues us all together. This was a great event. Again, we're entrepreneurs, so he had an idea, we did it, and it's come to culmination. And I want to make sure we thank all our panelists for being here today. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know I learned a ton. I'm sure everyone else did. And lastly, we just need to thank Sharon Grove and Mikey, who operationally and technically, put together and produced this great event. So thank you, everyone, very much. We look forward to seeing you in the fall, and hopefully the world is going to go back to spinning soon. We'll be together in person. So thanks, everyone, for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.